A knock at the door. Detectives ask, "Would you mind coming down to the station to take a polygraph test about where you were last night? Little Miss Muffet was found dead, and you have a rare poisonous spider. A lie detector machine can prove your innocence. Do lie detector tests really work? Are they foolproof? Some experts say so, others tell a different story. I'll tell you how they work, and you can make your own decisions about their reliability. Lie detectors measure physiological changes in the body related to stress. A person undergoes more stress when being deceitful than truthful. In order to gauge stress levels, a baseline of truthful bodily reactions must be recorded on the comparison to relevant questions for truth to be determined. First, I'll explain what types of bodily responses are measured. Second, I will reveal the different test types. And third, I will discuss the test process. Now that you have an overview of what I'd like to cover today, let's move on to examine the physiological responses to questioning and the activity of the subject's breathing, blood pressure, and sweating. There's quite a bit of science that goes into the monitoring of a polygraph machine. In a book entitled The Handbook of Forensic Psychology, it is found that the subject's respiratory rate is measured by two rubber tubes placed around the chest and abdomen. These tubes are filled with air. When the chest and abdomen expand, the tubes become contracted and creating a variable reading that is recorded on the graph. Measuring the blood pressure and heart rate is done. A cuff and tubing are put on the arm, and as blood pumps through the arm, it produces sound. The sound displaces air in the tubing that is recorded on the graph paper. In an article in the Journal of Psychology, galvanic skin resistance is described. This is a gauge of how much the subject is sweating. A sensor is placed on 2 fingers to measure the ability of the skin to conduct electricity. The more the skin sweats, the less electrical resistance. The change is recorded on the graph. While recording each response, questioning takes place. There are different formats of a polygraph interview. The control question test and the guilty knowledge test are the most common. That is what I will focus on next. First, the control question test. According to a website called How Stuff Works, the test is structured to compare the subject's physiological reactions to questions which consist of 3 types: irrelevant, relevant, and control, which are questions that are vague and designed to create doubt. Experts agree that the control question is less accurate, but the type of test is most common. Its wide use is due to the fact that the test can be applied to almost all types of investigations and circumstances. The guilty knowledge test records the subject's knowledge of the crime scene that only investigators and the guilty party would know. Items like a murder weapon would be displayed. A book called Psychology and Laws says that the graph shows significant response to the item actually used. The theory states that the subject must possess guilty knowledge and fails the test. This test is the most accurate use of a polygraph machine, but may not be applicable in the majority of the cases, such as a security clearance investigation. After the appropriate format is chosen, the interview begins. So let's move on to our last topic. The examiner follows a strict procedure of 4 steps and is the most important part when it comes to time to administer the lie detector test. The first step is the pre-test. The subject and the examiner discuss the test procedure, the subject's medical history, and the details of the test. This usually takes up to 30 minutes or 2 hours or longer. According to an article published by the National Academies Press, the examiner during this time is gathering information, observing the profiling and behavior of the subject. The examiner is looking for reactions to the questions. Designing questions is the next step. The examiner prepares a series of questions that will be asked of the subject. Each question is gone over to ensure the understanding of what is being asked. Only questions that are reviewed will be asked during the test. The third step was called the end test. This is the actual exam. This consists of 10 or 11 questions. Of these, 3 or 4 are control questions. According to the website called How to Pass a Lie Detector, the test questions provide the norms on the graph, which is the other questions that will be asked. Subjects are instructed to answer untruthfully to control questions such as, in the past 20 years, have you ever told a lie? The examiner will ask the person to tell a lie, therefore there will be a norm on the graph when they do tell a lie. The final step is the post-test. Data is gathered and analyzed by the examiner to determine if the person is telling the truth. Significant fluctuation signals that the subject has been deceptive, therefore guilty or telling a lie. So in conclusion, if there ever comes a knock at your door and you are asked, you have nothing to hide from the police, right? Perhaps by listening to this presentation, it has made you more comfortable in the response you give. You have If you believe that the lie detectors work or if they are foolproof. I hope that I have been able to enlighten you on how a lie detector works and how the results are analyzed. First, lie detector machines monitor a person's reaction physiologically to series of questions. It measures pulse and other physical signs that at the same time a person is being asked questions. Second, lie detectors are permitted in court only if all parties agree. Even so, law enforcement agencies still use them in criminal investigation, and employers use them as a screening tool. Third and finally, lie detectors are not capable of detecting lies. The machine can only show changes in bodily reactions due to lying. So if you submit yourself to a lie detector test, the most important point is to remember to stay calm and to speak the truth. Thank you for your attention.